Hello, family. Welcome to Stories with Pablo. Please subscribe and leave us a like. It means a lot to us. Also, share this video with your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss our future videos. Thank you for doing so. Please subscribe and leave us a like. It means the world to us. Also, share this video with your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss our future videos. Thank you for doing so. The courtroom was heavy with silence, the kind that presses on your chest and makes breathing difficult. Outside the narrow window, the sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the ornate wooden panels of the old legal chamber. The air smelled faintly of old paper, polished leather, and the cold stone that had witnessed decades of disputes, secrets, and revelations. Seated in the front row, quietly observing the proceedings, was a man named Odezi Chukwuemeka. Odezi was in his late 40s, tall and lean with sharp angular features that betrayed a life of sharp intellect and hard-earned experience. His tightly coiled black hair was streaked with the first glimmers of silver, a testament to years of stress and disappointment. His eyes, dark and vigilant, rarely missed detail. Odezi's hands were clenched loosely atop his briefcase, knuckles pale in the dim light. Across from him, the elderly lawyer, Mr. Adeyemi, cleared his throat and adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses before unfolding the will he had kept sealed for several weeks, stirring anticipation inside the somber room. The stark truth. Odezi had laughed when the name of his ex-wife Miriam appeared in the will. It had seemed like a cruel joke at first. Miriam, a figure from a past Odezi had tried desperately to forget, was named the primary beneficiary in the estate of his recently deceased father, Chief Ezekiel Chukwuemeka, the patriarch of one of Lagos's most formidable trading dynasties. The characters: Odezi Chukwuemeka, a complex man wrestling with past betrayals. Odezi was a self-made man, having carved a name for himself outside the family empire through his own business ventures, but there was always a shadow of his father's legacy hovering over him. His animosity toward Miriam was palpable, a mix of resentment, heartbreak, and fractured pride. Miriam Abiola, née Chukwuemeka, Odezi's ex-wife, and once the beloved daughter-in-law of Ezekiel. Miriam was a radiant woman in her mid-30s, tall, graceful, with striking green eyes that seemed to hold endless depths. Her origin was humble, raised by a single mother in a quiet suburb of Lagos, but she carried herself with dignified poise. Their marriage had ended years ago under toxic circumstances, yet a connection to the family's wealth remained an enigma. Chief Ezekiel Chukwuemeka, recently deceased, the patriarch whose will spark this storm. A man of formidable reputation in Lagos, both revered and feared, Ezekiel was a legendary businessman, known for his iron fist in negotiations and his unforgiving willpower. Little was publicly known about his personal life or the secret he had taken to the grave. Mr. Adeyemi, the family lawyer, a man steeped in tradition and discretion, whose measured voice and calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the tension in the room. Adeyemi knew much more than he revealed. His presence was as much about controlling the secrets as about delivering the legal verdict. The courtroom drama begins. The murmurs died down as Mr. Adeyemi began to speak again, the paper shaking slightly in his hands. Ladies and gentlemen, family and attendees, it is my duty to read the last will and testament of the late Chief Ezekiel Chukwuemeka. This document was executed on the 12th of March, 2025, witnessed and sealed in the presence of trusted legal representatives. Odezi shifted in his seat. He was prepared to hear the usual division of assets, shares, properties, perhaps some trust set up for the children. What he was not prepared for was the explicit and disproportionate inclusion of one person he had hoped was long erased from his life. Article 3. The lawyer's voice held a strange pause, designates Mrs. Miriam Abiola as a primary beneficiary for all real estate holdings in Lekki, as well as a controlling interest in Chukwuemeka Trading Holdings. A ripple passed through the room, sharp intake breaths and sideways glances. Odezi's lips twitched, an involuntary laugh escaping before he could stop it. "Is this some kind of joke?" he whispered to himself. Hearing the laughter, Miriam turned sharply, her face calm but her eyes flaring with a mixture of pain and defiance. She had known this moment would come, but the vindictiveness it carried was more than she expected. Mr. Adeyemi looked up, his expression serious. "It might surprise you, Mr. Chukwuemeka, but the late chief left a postscript. I will now proceed with its reading. The room leaned in. The terrifying detail. The lawyer's voice dropped almost to a whisper. Chief Ezekiel wrote, and I quote, "Should any beneficiary contest this will attempt to undermine the provisions herein, they will forfeit their inheritance completely. Furthermore, the beneficiary Miriam Abiola is to act as executor for the estate, and any attempt to obstruct her will be met with legal sanctions I have arranged in accordance to Nigerian law and enforced through international channels if necessary." A hush fell. Odezi's initial mirth drained away like water in a cracked cup. The phrase, "any attempts to obstruct," implied more than a simple warning. The chief had effectively set a trap, a mechanism of control even beyond death. He had anticipated that the family would resist Miriam and had engineered consequences to crush opposition ruthlessly. Then, a last paper slipped from a will's folder, carefully handed to the court clerk by Adeyemi. It was a letter, handwritten. Adeyemi cleared his throat and read aloud. "To those who would disrespect the inheritance or conspire against Miriam, be warned. I know secrets that would unravel the very fabric of our family. Secrets that Miriam holds, and I have entrusted to her for safekeeping. She is no mere beneficiary. She is guardian of the truth. Any who challenge her will awaken forces they have no control over." Odezi's heart hammered. The room was no longer just a place of legal proceedings. It was a stage for a battle against ghosts from the past. The flashback, Odezi and Miriam. Before the will reading, Odezi's laughter was not just disbelief but scorn born of bitter history. Yet now, it seemed a fragile mask cracking open. The memory of their last bitter conversation rushed in years ago on a rainy Lagos evening. "I can't keep living like this, Odezi," Miriam had said, her voice trembling and filled with a mixture of exhaustion and heartbreak. "Your family never accepted me, and the things you do, I can't take it anymore." Odezi had not answered. He couldn't face the pain in her eyes, the accusation hanging between them. They had parted not just as spouses, but adversaries in a battle for dignity and respect. The marriage, like much in Odezi's life, had been a complicated dance of love, disappointment, and societal pressure. Cultural depth, family, honor, and power. In Lagos, family was more than blood. It was legacy, honor, and survival in a fiercely competitive society. The Chukwuemeka name was weighty, wrapped in expectations and the burden of continuation. Miriam's presence in the will was a slap to the traditionalists who saw her as an outsider, a reminder that the old ways might crumble. Odezi understood this intensely. Despite his hardened exterior, a deep part of him ached, not only for control over his father's empire, but also for recognition, for the family he had lost. The lawyer rose to his feet, signaling the end of the reading, but the real story was only just beginning. "Ladies and gentlemen," Adeyemi said gravely, "this will require not only legal interpretation but the full cooperation of the family to proceed in accordance with the late chief's wishes. I urge caution." Odezi remained seated, eyes locked on Miriam. The woman who had walked out of his life was now more powerful than ever, wielding secrets that could destroy them all. His laughter had been premature, but the game was set. Their past would collide with their present, and the price of family secrets revealed could be deadly. "Prepare yourself, Miriam," Odezi said quietly, voice almost a growl. "This isn't over." She met his gaze without flinching. It never was. The sun had barely begun its slow crawl over the horizon when Odezi stepped out of the courthouse, his mind a storm. His usual composure fractured into shards of doubt and rage. The gravel beneath his polished shoes seemed to crumble under the weight of the news. Miriam, his ex-wife, was no mere ghost from the past who had wandered back for spite. She was a key player in the twisting plot his late father had crafted before death. The verdict of the will had sent ripples through Lagos's high society, but to Odezi it felt like a personal earthquake. As he climbed into the sleek black Mercedes waiting outside, his phone vibrated insistently. The caller ID read, "Chinu," his sister. He hesitated. He had avoided family conversations since the will reading. Yet today, he needed allies, even if fraught with tension. "Chinu," he answered, voice tight. "Odezi," she replied quickly. "Did you hear? Miriam is at her mother's house. Nobody can reach her. She's not returning calls." Odezi's jaw clenched. Why would she hide now? If she has nothing to fear, why the silence? Because, Odezi, this isn't about fear. It's about power. Dad's last words aren't just legal threats. They are promises and curses. Miriam's sanctuary. At a modest house tucked away in the serene enclave of Ikoyi, Miriam sat by the window, sunlight filtering through the sheer curtains, casting fragmented light on her pale face. The room was neat, infused with the scent of jasmine and old books, a safe harbor far from the storm brewing in the Chukwuemeka household. Miriam was lost in thought, fingers tracing the elegant envelope that contained Chief Ezekiel's handwritten letter. The weight of her inheritance was not just about wealth or property. It was about preserving a legacy neither the city nor the family dared to confront openly. Her gaze hardened. For years, she had known fragments of the family's secrets, whispered conversations at dinner tables, furtive glances between advisors, hidden ledgers that never saw daylight. Ezekiel's empire was built on more than trade and sterling reputation. Shadows lurked beneath every board meeting and contract signed. And now she was a custodian of those shadows. Dialogue, Miriam and her mother. Later that afternoon, Miriam's mother, Mama Biola, a dignified woman in her early 60s with silver-streaked hair twisted into a traditional jewel, entered the room. "Miri, child," she said softly, placing a hand on Miriam's shoulder. "You carry the weight of the family now. But remember, strength comes from knowing yourself." Miriam sighed, looking out toward the busy Lagos street that never slept. "Mother, I don't just carry weight. I carry a powder keg. If Odezi or anyone else tries to undo Dad's wishes, the consequences might be uncontainable." Mama Biola nodded knowingly. "The Chukwuemeka family has long been tangled in webs thicker than we imagine. Your father-in-law was no ordinary man. He was a custodian of dangerous secrets, of legacies some would kill to keep hidden." "What kind of secrets, Mother?" Miriam's voice dropped to a whisper. "The kind that poison families, Miri. The kind you must protect yourself against." Odezi's conflict. Meanwhile, back in his downtown Lagos penthouse, Odezi paced restlessly. His phone rang again, this time a number he didn't recognize. "Who is this?" he asked cautiously. A gravelly male voice responded. "Mr. Chukwuemeka, I am Mr. Basie, an old family associate. You should be very careful. The late chief's will isn't just a legal document. It's a warning. There are forces at play you don't understand." Odezi frowned. "What forces, and what do you want?" "Simply to advise caution. Your father's empire is built on more than trade routes and contracts. There are debts and bloodlines that run deeper than you've been told." The call ended abruptly. Odezi sat heavily on the leather couch. His father's empire was a house of cards, and someone was waiting for it to fall. Cultural and social context. Lagos was a city of vibrancy and contradictions. The gleaming skyscrapers and bustling markets hid stories of ambition, betrayal, tradition, and modernity clashing at every turn. In Odezi's world, honor was as volatile as oil in the Niger Delta. The old ways demanded loyalty and sacrifice, but rapid urbanization bred new rules, rules that Miriam, as an outsider-turned-key stakeholder, challenged. The question lingered, could the family survive a truth potent enough to fracture it? A visit to the old compound. Determined to find answers, Odezi returned to his childhood home in Lekki, a sprawling compound that spoke of both grandeur and decay. The air was thick with a mix of incense and memories. He found the housekeeper, Auntie Funmi, sweeping the front veranda. "Auntie," Odezi called softly, "did you know about any threats Dad kept? Secrets we should know before things get worse." Funmi paused, her eyes reflecting sorrow and fear. "Master Chukwuemeka was a proud man, sir, but he feared the consequences of some deals more than anything. He kept locked drawers, secret rooms, things no outsider saw." Odezi's curiosity ignited. "Where is this hidden?" Funmi's hands trembled. "In the study, behind the bookcase. But be warned, no one who tries to uncover those secrets ever comes back the same." The fracture deepens. By dusk, word began spreading through Lagos's whispers. Miriam's bold new position was shaking foundations. The elite quietly debated behind closed doors. Some saw opportunity, others, disaster. Friends reached out. Enemies moved in shadows. For Odezi, the battle lines were drawn not only across boardrooms and legal chambers, but across his own heart. Could he forgive Miriam? And if he did not, what price would they both pay? As the city lights blinked on, like scattered jewels in the night, the greatest test loomed. Could two people, torn by past pain yet bound by blood and betrayal, uncover the truth before it consumed them all? The Lagos night was restless. Odezi lay in the dark silence of his penthouse bedroom, the hum of the city below drifting through slightly open windows. The will's revelations weighed heavily on his mind. Every shadow seemed to carry a whisper of the past. The laughter he'd once allowed himself now felt like the hollow echo of a man blindly walking into an ambush. A sudden, soft knock broke the silence. Odezi tensed instinctively. "It's me," a familiar voice whispered from outside the door. Amaka, his close friend since university and the woman who understood him better than most. The door creaked open, and Amaka stepped in. Her natural afro framed her face with soft strength, and her eyes reflected the firelight of the city's distant glow. "You should not be home alone tonight," she said firmly, moving over and taking a seat on the edge of the bed. Odezi chuckled bitterly. "There's no such thing as safe now. Not with this will and whatever secrets Dad left behind." Amaka laid her hand reassuringly on his. "Tell me, what's the truth here? Why does Miriam have the power Dad never gave her openly? And what's threatening you now?" Odezi hesitated. The rage and betrayal inside him warred with a desperate need for clarity. "I don't know all the shadows," he admitted. "But Dad left a letter warning anyone from interfering. He said Miriam holds secrets that could tear us apart, secrets I don't fully understand yet." Amaka's gaze sharpened. "Then we need to find those secrets before they find you." An unexpected ally, Mr. Base's warning. Early the next morning, Odezi received another call from Mr. Base, the mysterious family associate. "This is no coincidence, Chukwuemeka," the voice rasped. "There are people watching, some who will stop at nothing to ensure Miriam's control remains uncontested. The chief prepared for this, but you must prepare yourself too." "What do you want from me?" Odezi asked, more curious and suspicious. "To survive this, you need allies, not enemies," Base replied. "And I have access to information that might explain why Miriam was chosen." Before Odezi could respond, the line disconnected. Miriam's confession. Meanwhile, in her Ikoyi sanctuary, Miriam invited her closest confidant, Ifunanya, a childhood friend and fierce advocate, to discuss the heavy burden she now carried. The two seated on plush chairs, Miriam revealed a secret only recently disclosed to her in a letter from Chief Ezekiel prior to his death, a hidden history of betrayal, sacrifice, and unspoken debts. "I was always the outsider," Miriam began, "but Dad, in his twisted wisdom, entrusted me, not because of love or fairness. The man wasn't capable, but because he feared what would happen if the truth came out." Ifunanya frowned. "What truth, Miri? What hatred or curse lies in the past?" Miriam's voice dropped to a whisper. "There was a pact, a silent agreement within the family. My mother, a stranger to their circles, was once involved with a man close to Dad's most guarded secrets, secrets that could destroy the Chukwuemeka dynasty if revealed." Ifunanya's eyes widened. "You mean?" "Yes," Miriam interrupted. "Bloodlines mixed, loyalties questioned, and I am the living proof. The reason Dad's empire needs me, to protect it at all costs, even from his own blood." Odezi's growing desperation. Odezi spent the day visiting various locations, piecing together whispers and clues. Each encounter brought new tensions. At the family compound, he confronted his mother, Miriam, a formidable woman in her 70s whose poised exterior concealed generations of pain and pride. "Mother," Odezi said quietly, "what did Dad fear most?" "Why Miriam?" Miriam studied him sharply. "Your father was a man ruled by duty and secrets. Miriam was always a thorn, not because she lacked worth, but because she carried shadows no one could bear to face." "Why didn't you tell me?" Odezi demanded. "Because sometimes silence is the only protection," she replied gravely. "You must be careful who you trust. Your father made enemies who thrive in darkness." The silent battle at the estate. That evening, as darkness fell, a quiet war began behind closed doors. Miriam's supporters and detractors maneuvered carefully. Odezi's sister Chinu met secretly with influential board members, trying to rally support but sensing betrayal within their midst. Miriam, in turn, reached out to former colleagues of the late chief, strategizing with precision and resolve. The city's elite whispered rumors. The legal battle was not just for inheritance, but for the very soul of the Chukwuemeka legacy. A dramatic confrontation. Late one night, Odezi confronted Miriam on neutral ground, a quiet cafe overlooking the Lagos lagoon. "I don't understand why you're here," Odezi said, bitterness sharp in his voice. "You rejected this family. Why come back with a sword?" Miriam fixed him with piercing green eyes. "Because some wounds never heal, Odezi, and some truths refuse to stay buried. Do you even know what you're fighting for? Or are you just a pawn in Dad's game?" "I'm not a pawn," Miriam said fiercely. "I'm the guardian of the legacy you fear, and I won't let it crumble." Their voices lowered, but the tension was electric, a mixture of old affections and new animosities. Behind the peaceful lagoon, the shadows of their past promises and betrayal stayed, waiting to rip open fresh wounds. Expanding the world, Lagos's social and cultural tapestry. The story is set in present-day Lagos, a city marked by rapid modernization, but rooted profoundly in tradition. Here, the Chukwuemeka family's power symbolizes old established wealth, contrasting with Miriam's emergence as a disruptor, her background and values from a lesser-known but resilient lineage reflecting the change Lagos itself was undergoing. The theme of legacy versus modernity threads through the story. Family honor, the role of women in leadership, the impact of colonial and post-colonial history on power structures, and the tension between private loyalty and public duty. Climax to this segment. The chapter edges toward a subtle climax. Odezi receives a mysterious envelope slipped under his door at the penthouse. Inside is a photo of a document, a birth certificate with a name that neither Miriam nor anyone else in the family had publicly acknowledged, suggesting a hidden sibling or secret heir. The chilling message accompanies it. The true legacy is darker than you imagine. Look carefully before it's too late. Odezi's eyes hardened. The family war was far from over. Worse, it was about to become far more personal. Early morning in Lagos, the calm before the storm. The golden light of dawn spilled through the slatted blinds in Odezi's penthouse, casting horizontal stripes across the polished mahogany desk. The photo of the strange birth certificate still sat on the table, its cold truth burning into Odezi's mind like an open wound. He traced the name with a finger, a name unknown, yet tied by blood and silence to the Chukwuemeka legacy. He poured a cup of bitter Nigerian coffee and stared out at Lagos's skyline, the exuberant city breathing life into so many untold stories. The streets were already bustling with vendors shouting their wares, the intoxicating blend of honking vehicles and distant prayers spilling into the morning. Yet inside Odezi, the city's vitality felt distant, overshadowed by secrets twisting tighter with every breath. "Another secret, another betrayal," he muttered. Odezi's search for truth. The investigation begins. Determined not to let the shadows swallow him whole, Odezi summoned his most trusted confidant, Ifini, a sharp and tenacious private investigator known for navigating Lagos's labyrinth of power and deceit. The two met at a small cafe near Victoria Island, surrounded by the pulse of city life, a place where whispers traveled quickly and no detail was too insignificant. "Ifini," Odezi said, sliding the birth certificate across the table. "This is new. You know anything about it?" Ifini adjusted his glasses and examined the paper closely. "This is no ordinary document. Look at the seal. This is from a government hospital, but the name, it's not listed in any family records. Whoever keeps this secret wants it hidden. I'll check hospital records, birth registrations, and family registries immediately." Odezi nodded gravely. "And what about Miriam? Is she connected to this?" Ifini's voice went low. "If she didn't know, she certainly does now. This could change everything about what your father wanted." Miriam's shadow passed. Meanwhile, in Ikoyi, Miriam was preparing for a meeting with an enigmatic elder of the community, Adeyemi, a man whose wisdom was sought by many but whose allegiance remained an enigma. Adeyemi was in his early 70s, tall and regal with a white beard neatly trimmed and eyes that seemed to pierce through lies. As a custodian of Yoruba traditions and histories, his presence carried immense authority. "Miriam Abiola," he greeted her with a respectful bow. "Your father-in-law was a man torn between worlds. To protect the family, he laid traps none can yet see. I am here because you need guidance. The ancestors demand it. Miriam's gaze was steady. I am no stranger to the weight of the past, Oba Ademola, but what more must I hear to move forward? The Oba took a deep breath, his voice a solemn cadence. There is a hidden bloodline, one that many thought erased by time and silence. It is this bloodline your father feared, the one whose existence threatens to unravel the empire. Miriam's heart raced. You mean the child? Not just a child. A heir, an echo of the sins and sacrifices long past. Odezi's emotional turmoil. Back in the city, Odezi wrestled with his emotions. The possibility of a hidden sibling unearthed a tangled web of jealousy, guilt, and a fragile hope he scarcely dared admit. His memories flickered like fragmented scenes from a half-remembered film. Childhood birthdays where his mother's gaze was distracted, hushed late-night conversations behind closed doors, and a sense of looming betrayal he had buried deep. Could this be why Dad made Miriam executor? He wondered. Was she a guardian not just of his estate, but of a deadly family secret? Dialogue. Odezi and Chinu. That evening, Odezi summoned his sister, Chinu, to his penthouse. Chinu, spirited and intelligent, carried a blend of maternal kindness and sharp critique that often balanced Odezi's impulsiveness. You need help, Odezi, Chinu said, crossing her arms. This hidden heir is more than a threat to your inheritance. It's a threat to our entire family's identity. And what do you propose? Odezi asked, exhaustion creeping in. We have to find this person before they find us. If the secret gets out to the wrong ears, it could destroy everything, including the Chukwuemeka reputation. Odezi exhaled slowly. And Miriam? She is a puzzle wrapped in pain and power, but her role is now undeniable. Cultural insight, the legacy of blood and power. Within Nigerian culture, the concept of family extends beyond biological ties, functioning as a web of loyalty, history, and societal expectation. Bloodlines carry weight as symbols of authority and legitimacy, but are also fraught with historical wounds, colonial-era legacies, class divides, and the silent presence of untold stories. The conflict between Odezi and Miriam symbolizes an internal cultural clash between tradition and modernity, secret histories and public facades, inherited power and individual agency. Late-night revelation. As the city lights glittered under the velvet night sky, Odezi returned to his study. There, amid the weight of old books and scattered papers, his phone vibrated with a message from Ifini. Found something. Meet tonight. Location, Lagos Central Archives, 10 p.m. The chill crawling up Odezi's spine told him the journey ahead was far from over. What lay waiting in the dusty recesses of the city's archives could change everything. The meeting at Lagos Central Archives. The night was humid and thick with the characteristic Lagos humidity as Odezi arrived at the unassuming building housing the Central Archives. The distant hum of city life drifted lazily through the air, but inside, the dusty silence of forgotten history enveloped him. The archives were a labyrinth of shelves, filing cabinets, and yellowed documents, a fortress of secrets waiting to be unearthed. Odezi moved cautiously, guided by the dim light of a handheld torch in Ifini's grip. I've combed through hospital records, family registries, and even some old legal documents. Ifini said steadily. There's a folder here marked Confidential, Chukwuemeka Family, 1980s. It wasn't in the main registry, hidden away under special orders. They reached the cabinet, and Ifini gently pulled out a thick, dust-covered file. The hidden truth unfolds. Odezi's heart pounded as Ifini carefully opened the file. Inside were documents, letters, and photographs, some yellow with age, others crisply preserved. The key document was a DNA paternity test report, dated 1987, long before Odezi was born. It confirmed what the birth certificate had hinted, that Chief Ezekiel Chukwuemeka had fathered a child with a woman outside the official family line. Among the documents was a letter from Ezekiel himself, addressed to an unknown custodian of the family's honor. This secret must never surface. The child exists, unacknowledged but vital. They are the bloodline's safeguard and curse. Miriam holds a key to their protection. Should that child be revealed, the insult will overthrow every throne I built. Odezi felt cold sweat bead on his forehead. His father had spent decades hiding this truth. This changes everything. Odezi whispered. The will, Miriam's inheritance, her control, it's all tied to the secret heir. Interlude, Odezi's inner turmoil. As dawn began to lighten the sky, Odezi leaned against the cold stone wall, grappling with a whirlwind of emotions: betrayal of the father who deceived his family, confusion about the sibling he never knew, and the sudden realization that Miriam's position was more delicate and dangerous than ever. What do I do now? He murmured. Fight her? Join her? Or find this hidden family member before the secret explodes? The cultural weight of the secret. In Nigerian society, especially among influential families, the existence of a secret child disrupts the intricate balance of status, honor, and inheritance. The revelation threatens not only property but the very essence of legitimacy. The fact that Miriam was a custodian made her role both politically necessary and personally precarious. She was both protector and target in a volatile legacy. Miriam's vulnerability and resolve. Across Lagos, Miriam was preparing to meet Oba Ademola again. This meeting was more than guidance. It was a ritual to seek spiritual protection against the storms gathering. In my dreams, Miriam confided, I see a child, a shadow separated from me but always near. I feel his presence in whispered voices, hidden eyes. Oba Ademola nodded gravely. The ancestors do not forget, and the blood you bear is a living thread to those memories. You must be strong. Daughter, this secret will break or bind. A dangerous encounter. While Odezi and Miriam face internal battles, outside forces stirred. As Odezi left the archives late at night, he found himself followed, shadowed by unknown figures determined to silence any discovery. Back in his car, heart racing, Odezi realized the stakes had escalated terrifically. Whoever wanted the secret buried were willing to kill for it. Dialogue, Odezi and Amaka. Desperate, Odezi called Amaka. You won't believe what I found at the archives, he said urgently. Amaka's voice was calm but fierce. I'm coming over. The secret could tear your family apart. I'll save you. You're not alone in this, Odezi. He looked out the window at the sprawling city, a city of power, betrayal, and survival, and wondered how the dawn would change everything. Dawn breaks over Lagos, after the archives. The first light of dawn spilled over Lagos like a golden tide, painting the sprawling cityscape in amber hues. Odezi sat alone in his study, the weight of revelation still pressing heavily on his chest. The document from the archives lay scattered across the desk, a family's buried truth now unveiled, fragile and dangerous. The telephone on the desk buzzed insistently. He glanced over. It was Amaka calling. Come over, he whispered into the receiver. I need someone I can trust. Minutes later, Amaka arrived. Her eyes, sharp and steady, scanned the documents, her brow furrowing with concern. This changes everything, she said. You don't just have to contend with Miriam, Odezi. You're dealing with a legacy built on secrets and silence. And now you're in the crosshays. Miriam's growing isolation. Miriam awoke that same morning with a heavy heart. News had traveled fast within Lagos's networks. Many among the Chukwuemeka family were already murmuring doubts, spreading distrust. She sat before an antique mirror, her green eyes searching her reflection for strength. The weight of the letter Oba Ademola had given her press in her palm, a talisman for protection, wrapped in centuries-old incantations. Suddenly, her phone rang. It was from Ifunanya, her closest confidant. Some of the elders are starting to doubt the secrecy of the will. Ifunanya's voice was tense. And your position at risk. Miriam swallowed hard. I must hold on. For the child. For the truth. The hidden air, a whisper in the wind. Neither Odezi nor Miriam yet knew where or who the secret child was. But in a modest neighborhood on Lagos's outskirts, a young man, tall, with soulful eyes and a demeanor shaped by hardship, heard his name whispered in shadows. His name was Emeka. A carpenter by trade, Emeka had lived his entire life unaware of his bloodline, raised by a loving but secretive aunt. A chance meeting with Ifini, under the guise of business inquiries, marked the start of his unraveling world. Dialogue, Odezi and Amaka plot a course. In Odezi's penthouse, plans were taking shape. We can approach this carefully, Amaka suggested. Find Emeka, learn his story before enemies can use him as a weapon. Odezi nodded but hesitated. I don't even know if he wants to be found, or if he's part of this at all. A market took his hand. Family means more than blood sometimes. But secrets, they shatter everything. Cultural clash, tradition versus modernity. As this new generation faced the fallout of old sins, Lagos itself was a battleground of tradition and change. Odezi represented a modern, globalized Nigeria, ambitious, pragmatic, while Miriam embodied resilience rooted in the resilience of history and ancestral power. The struggle over the Chukwuemeka legacy mirrored the tension between the country's past and future, its rituals and its realpolitik. A sudden betrayal. Word of the secret heir soon reached more ears than intended. At a private gathering in Victoria Island, Kola Ajayi, a longtime rival businessman and friend-turned-foe of Ezekiel, covertly negotiated with a shadowy figure. The Chukwuemeka family doesn't know what they've unleashed, Kola snarled. If Emeka surfaces, the empire crumbles. We can make sure of it for the right price. Dramatic confrontation. Odezi and Chine. Odezi returned home late that evening to find Chine waiting, her face grim. You've got to be careful, Odezi, she warned. Our enemies know the secret now. They will use it. How far will they go? He asked quietly. Far enough to burn everything down, she replied, including us. Closing the chapter. As the city sank into the quiet pulse of night, enemies moved unseen, alliances shifted, and the fragile threads holding the Chukwuemeka legacy together began to fray. Odezi looked out over the sprawling Lagos skyline and whispered, "This war isn't about money anymore. It's about survival." Behind his window, beyond the distant lights, the shadows of family, power, and blood converged, and the price of truth began to rise. The growing storm. The tension in Lagos was palpable. The city that thrived on its relentless energy was quietly rattled by the brewing storm within the Chukwuemeka dynasty. Whispers of the secret heir, Emeka, grew louder in the shadows. Meanwhile, Odezi and Miriam found themselves unwittingly locked in a tense, fragile alliance, a necessity born from survival rather than trust. Odezi's unseen battle. At his penthouse, Odezi stared at surveillance photos delivered secretly by Afeni. People close to Miriam were under watch, their movements and meetings chronicled in intricate detail. Enemies lurk within the family, Afeni warned. Not everyone is who they seem. Odezi growled, anger mixing with exhaustion. The fight was no longer just in boardrooms or in the courts. It was now a silent, deadly game of shadows. Miriam's determination. In her sanctuary, Miriam confronted her loneliness. Her staff whispered rumors of betrayal, yet she held firm. Clutching the amulet given by Oba Ademola, she found strength in her ancestors' legacy. This burden was hers alone to bear. A visit from Oba Ademola brought urgent news. The spirits grow restless, he said gravely. The bloodline's truth must be revealed soon, or it will destroy all of you. The heir's awakening. Emeka, the unwitting heir, was thrust deeper into the web. Ifunanya, acting discreetly on Miriam's behalf, found him in his workshop. Your family's history is no accident, she told him gently. You carry the bloodline of a legacy meant to endure. Emeka's confusion was palpable. Why me? Why keep this a secret? For protection, she answered. But now that secrecy can no longer hold. A fractured family. At the sprawling Lekki estate, confrontations became inevitable. Odezi faced Chine, her loyalty torn between sibling bond and bitter truth. You can't protect him forever, Chine said harshly, referring to Emeka. They will come for every one of us. Odezi clenched his jaw. Then we must stand together or fall apart. Cultural crossroads. The deep-rooted traditions of the Chukwuemeka family clash with Lagos's rapid modernization. Power, honor, and blood intertwined with the realities of contemporary politics and commerce, forcing characters to reassess their identities. A fatal move. One night, the fragile calm shattered when a fire broke out at a property registered under Miriam's name. Flames devoured a facade, a blatant warning. Odezi received the call. Burn them down if you must, but I won't let your enemies win, he promised, rage and resolve hardening his voice. Dialogue. Odezi and Miriam, a precarious pact. Their confrontation was inevitable. They met in an unmarked building, each bringing layers of resentment and reluctant respect. "Your father's legacy is a curse," Odezi spat, "and you're the only one left to bear it." Miriam met his gaze steadily. "I'm not the enemy, Odezi, but I won't be your victim." They both knew war was no longer a choice but a necessity. The city holds its breath. The humming energy of Lagos seemed to pause under the weight of the Chukwuemeka crisis. Power brokers and family members alike watched as a once-hidden truce threatened to erupt fully, spilling decades of secrets into the public eye. Emeka's choice. Emeka stood at a crossroads. The knowledge of his true heritage both empowered and terrified him. Growing up believing he was an ordinary carpenter's son, the weight of expectation now crushed him. He met quietly with Ifunanya in a small cafe nestled in the bustling heart of Lagos. "I don't know if I want this," Emeka confessed. "To carry a legacy I never asked for." Ifunanya reached across the table, squeezing his hand. "You're more than your blood, but the truth must be faced. It's what will set us all free." Odezi's resolve. Determined to protect the family and his own dignity, Odezi convened an emergency meeting with his closest advisors. "We need to control the narrative," he said firmly. "If the media or our enemies get wind of the air, it's the end, not just for us, but for everything Dad built." A plan was hatched, one mixing legal maneuvering, strategic alliances, and whispered warnings to those who might leak information. Miriam stormed. Miriam, isolated yet unyielding, called upon supporters from her past and emerged a figure of unexpected power. She tapped into networks that blended ancestral wisdom with modern influence, quieting dissenters with equal parts grace and ruthlessness. Clashing visions. Odezi and Miriam. The siblings-in-law met again, this time on neutral turf, a private garden away from prying eyes and gossiping lips. "I can't undo what Dad did," Odezi admitted, "but we can decide how this ends." Miriam's smile was faint but resolute. "Only together can we survive what comes next." The outside threat. As a fragile truce formed, danger lurked. Kola Ajayi and his shadowy allies saw the division as opportunity. A covert plan was set in motion to destabilize the family further, manipulating public opinion and leveraging the secret heir. Cultural reflections, legacy and forgiveness. This chapter deepened the exploration of forgiveness, not only between individuals but within the broader context of family and societal expectations. In a culture where honor and lineage carry indelible marks, the ability to reconcile becomes a form of survival. The cliffhanger. The chapter closes on a tense note. A late-night phone call to Odezi reveals a sudden, shocking development. Emeka has disappeared. A terse voice warns, "If you want him alive, come alone. No cops, no backup, somewhere private. Midnight, you know where." Odezi's heart pounds. The war for the Chukwuemeka legacy had finally crossed into blood-soaked reality. The midnight rendezvous. The Lagos night was dense, sultry, and filled with a tense expectancy as Odezi made his way to the designated meeting spot, an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city, shrouded in rusted metal and memories better left forgotten. His breath was steady despite the roar of adrenaline coursing through his veins. In his pocket, his phone was silent. Backup had been forbidden, a cool test of his courage and resolve. As he entered the cavernous darkness, footsteps echoed. From the shadows emerged a figure, unknown, cloaked in mystery, yet familiar with the cold pragmatism of danger. "Where is Emeka?" Odezi demanded, voice low but firm. The figure hesitated, then revealed a worn envelope. "He's alive, for now, but the clock is ticking. You wanted the truth? This is the price." The truth in blood. Odezi unfolded the letter inside. The words revealed dark deals forged in greed and fear, implicating members of his own family in conspiracies to erase the hidden heir and seize control. Miriam appeared behind Odezi without a sound, her presence as steady as the night itself. "You wanted a reckoning," she said softly. "Now you have it." Together, they pieced together the fractured history, the betrayals, sacrifices, and the paths taken to protect the family name at any cost. Emeka's courage. Elsewhere, Emeka was held not just as a hostage, but as a symbol of what the family had tried to bury. Yet, in his captivity, a quiet strength grew, a determination to confront not just his captors but the legacy itself. He whispered to himself, "I am more than the shadow. I will be the light. The climactic confrontation. Odezi and Miriam, joined by a small band of loyal allies, launched a daring rescue. The operation was tense, fraught with betrayal and close calls. Gunfire echoed through the night, secrets unfurled like broken threads, and lives were forever altered. The aftermath and forgiveness. In the quiet that followed the storm, the family gathered, fractured but surviving. Hard truths were spoken, and uneasy peace brokered. Odezi and Miriam stood side by side, no longer just adversaries, but reluctant partners in healing. Perhaps this legacy, Odezi said, voice heavy, was never about what we inherited, but what we choose to build. Miriam nodded, eyes reflecting hope. Families are never perfect, but they are alive through forgiveness, through truth. Closing reflection, culture and identity. The story closed by tying the personal to the cultural. The struggle of Lagos's families to reconcile modern challenges with tradition, the complexity of honor and identity in a rapidly changing world, and the redemptive power confronting painful truths. Hello, family. Kindly share with us your thoughts, comments, or opinion. We'd be glad to hear from you on these stories. Thanks for watching Stories with Pablo. Please subscribe and leave us a like. It means a lot to us. You can also share this video with your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss our future videos. Thank you for doing so.